Hey everybody, welcome to a special Resistance broadcast mini episode where we're going to talk about Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. And Lacey, the first thing I thought when I watched this was, this is essentially what Marvel does in their actual storytelling, and Star Wars is doing it for sillies. And I'm all about it. So thank you everybody for joining us. We hope you enjoy this mini episode, because we're going to dig into this 4-episode romp in the spirit of childlike whimsy and putting canon aside and just having a good time with the silly elements of Star Wars and twisting things upside down. Good guys are bad, bad are good. And also an incredible cast, including
Very good cast.
the return of legends in Star Wars, but also people who have been around Star Wars of late. Just an overall really good production, and we're going to hop into it. So, Lacey, we had a chance to see this in advance. I know it is now out, but so first off, thank you to Disney, Lucasfilm for giving us the opportunity to check these out ahead of time. I know my kids are going to really enjoy this stuff. The one thing I'll say though, Lacey, and I put this in my social media reaction to it, is if you are preserving the I am your father reveal,
you might want to skip this one.
You might want to skip this one, because I don't know that you want this to be how your kids find out that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. So just make sure your kids have seen the movies first, or if you don't care, then have at it. But Lacey, I know we talked briefly about it. We didn't get into too many details, but I know you had fun watching this. I had fun watching this. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about it.
Spoiler alert, by the way. We didn't say this at the top, but if you're not interested in hearing details and plot, etc., about Rebuild the Galaxy, Star Wars Lego, their new 4-part series, please turn this off and come back after you've watched it, because this, which by the time this is out, it's out today on the 13th of September. But yeah, spoiler alert.
Good call. So 4 episodes, about 22 minutes each. It looks like there may be more based on how it ends, which is interesting. But your initial thoughts, Lacey? Let's just dig into this thing. I know out of the gate, we texted each other saying we were both laughing out loud, and we didn't watch it together, but we were watching it relatively at the same time. So what were your initial thoughts about Rebuild the Galaxy?
My initial thoughts, which I also shared on social media, again, thank you to Lucasfilm and Disney for letting us see it early, was that it was a real lot of fun. Like, I enjoyed my time watching it. And I think due to what's going on in the real world and then also in the Star Wars fandom right now, it just was like a real highlight for me of something that was completely not serious. It's exactly kind of the it doesn't take itself seriously, like every Star Wars Lego thing. There's always these little quips and jokes and references outside of Star Wars, but then also poking fun at itself within the Star Wars universe that makes it its own unique exploration of that galaxy that we love far, far away. I thought the voice acting was perfect. I thought everybody was really, really nicely cast in this. And surprisingly, Gaten, is it Gaten or
Gaten Matarazzo.
Yeah, Matarazzo from Stranger Things. Dustin from Stranger Things. Him and Tony Revolori, who's also in Willow, which sad face does please bring back to Disney Plus. Played brothers Sig and Dev, and they sound exactly alike. Like,
I get similar, yeah.
I get why they put them as brothers, because at first it was like very hard to tell them apart at moments, because you're like, wait, what? These are 2 different characters. Is this person playing 2 different characters, like one person? But then you realize it's not. They just sound a lot alike, which is really kind of funny. But then when you look at who they play in live action roles, they both play very similar roles in live action as well, whether it be Willow or Stranger Things. They did a really good job. I thought Bobby Moynihan, who plays Jedi Bob, who is a new original character, was very funny. It's also funny that his name is Bob. But you said it at the top here, and I agree 100%. Mark Hamill, like, it was his series. He was the highlight. Everything he did was perfect. He's a masterful voice actor, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because you could tell from the way lines were read and the energy that he was putting into it and just the amount he was in this series that I think he was having an amazing time. Like, he was so excited to be a part of this, I think. I think it was giving him another chance to be Luke without it actually being Luke.
I agree with that. And the part I was talking about before, like it's 90 seconds in, and it's Gaten Matarazzo as Sig, sort of being a narrator, telling you the story of Star Wars briefly and who's what.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the part, I mean, the Sheevy Bays part with Palpatine saying "I'm back, baby." I
Oh
was
my
like,
god, stop. When he said that, I was like, "Are they watching John's Twitter account? Are they watching this show? What is happening?" Because you've been saying that for 6, 7 years, and jokingly with Sheevy Babes at moments, like, making this whole thing, like, he's back. So when he said that, I was like, I don't know if this is a really weird coincidence or genuinely someone saw a tweet from John and just put it in
well,
this Lego movie
yeah, a lot of people
series.
say that phrase and stuff, but the fact that it was Palpatine doing it, I was like, "This is amazing." And then right after that, the narrator, Sig, Gaten Matarazzo says, Luke, was the hero of the galaxy, but then he got grumpy. And then Mark Hamill comes in his modern, current Mark Hamill voice, which sounds different, obviously, than younger Luke,
Mhm.
but it works for older Luke. He goes, "Yeah, I'm grumpy now. Get him, Ray." And I just laughed so hard because we know that Mark Hamill like had an issue with Luke being, grumpy and sad and stuff, and it's his way of like having fun with it and saying like, "Yeah, I'm grumpy now." like,
Are
I
you kidding? The whole introduction of him when he's pod racing on Tatooine, which is a water world now.
with his little
Um
outfit and his like hair and
Oh,
everything.
which we should get to this. So, the main plot of this series is that there's this magical brick, and by removing this brick from this Jedi temple, they basically rework, rebuild, so to speak, everything you know about Star Wars. So,
Hmm.
everything basically gets flipped upside down and changed and switched and all this stuff. You have Admiral Akbar being all the clone troopers. You have, good guys are bad
Jedi
guys, and bad
Vader,
guys are good. Jedi Vader, yeah, you have good guys, bad guys. You have a Jedi Jabba.
Jedi
Jedi
Jabba, Darth Jar
Palpatine is
Jar,
not, yeah.
finally.
Yes, he's there, played by Ahmed Best, of course.
Hmm.
You have Palpatine, who is younger Palpatine that, like, never gets scarred, but he's also a Jedi.
But he's like still like sort of annoyed and grumpy.
He's still the same voice guy, which killed me in, like, the holiday special, the Christmas special, it's the same guy.
So good.
Um, but yeah, so you have all these jokes, and that's why it's able to kind of poke fun at itself in such a great way because it's all backwards. So it's not going to offend anybody that's a Star Wars fan that's like, that's not how it goes because
Exactly.
it's not. But at the same time, there were moments that it made me laugh. And one of them was when they go to visit, like I said, Tatooine, which is a water world. They find Luke who's pod racing and he's cheating. Surprise. Um, they go to the cantina and he runs through his storyline with Sig. He's like, "So you're telling me I did this and then I did this and then I end up alone on a planet by myself and grumpy?" And there's this moment I cackled. I was like, "Yes, you do. And that is why I hate it." Like, "Yes, you do." And there was a tone that, like, when Mark Hamill says it too, I was like, "He feels this. He's feeling this line right now." And he was like, "I'd rather stay in this timeline." I was like, "You do that, Luke. You stay in this timeline where you're a pod racer having a good time."
Right.
Um,
And
I
the
do have some questions for you, but keep going.
well, one thing I wanted to bring up, the director Chris Buckley,
Mhm.
um, he started with Star Wars in 2017. He was a senior animator on The Last Jedi.
Hmm.
And now he's directing this. He was a lead animator on the Lego Movie 2. So obviously he knew what he was doing because this, sometimes when you have like the Lego Movie was so big, and such a big hit. Sometimes when
Yeah.
they make things that are on a lower tier, not a theatrical big thing, it doesn't feel the same. But they got the guy who was been involved with the movies for the Lego stuff,
Mhm.
and the fact that he was also a senior animator with Star Wars, with The Last Jedi, it's like they got the right person here for this. And you could tell that it has that charm. They know its lane. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
they capture it perfectly. So his name won't be mentioned in probably most videos about this or reviews about this, but Chris Buckley, great job, cheers, and glad that you're doing this, because I can't think of anyone better. But go ahead. Yeah, you had questions, because I also want to run through that cast that you mentioned in a bit too.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up, because we're talking production, the writer of this series also helped write Pokemon Detective Pikachu. He did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ooh,
He's done Adam's Family 2. He wrote the screenplay and story. He did The Tick, the newer series. Um, yeah, he's done a bunch of stuff. So this is not someone that's just doing this.
so that's
Uh,
Dan Hernandez and and
Benji Summit.
Benji Samit. Yeah, very
Summit.
cool.
Summit. Yeah, so he's done a ton of stuff too, so I wanted to give him a little nod because the writing was just so good in the series. um
I'm dying to hear these questions.
so my question was, now I'm blanking on what the question is, so I'm going to let you continue on what you're talking about
All
because
right.
I
Well,
forget.
so the cast, like I
Oh,
was
I
saying.
remember.
Oh, all right.
So the biggest question I had after watching this series, John, is how did you feel about the Han Solo reveal?
Um, I had fun with it. I thought it was cool seeing Han sort of being a bad guy.
Yeah.
Because Han kind of was not a bad guy, but he thought of himself from Solo. I'm an outlaw. I'm not the good guy, you know?
Mhm.
And people are like, no, Han, you're the good guy. He's like, oh, all right. It's like this is Han's opportunity to finally be the bad guy. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the different color palette of his vest and stuff like that. Dark
Mhm,
Falcon, of course,
mhm,
very cool. Dark Ray, like all these like interesting things that people have been interested in that we haven't had a chance to explore more. And I'm glad they're exploring it here because, like you said, this isn't the book. This isn't like the sacred canon. They can do anything they want here, and it doesn't matter. And that's what's so freeing and so fun. And it's also a palate cleanser because sometimes Star Wars, we love it so much, but fans can almost get too obsessive over it, where it starts becoming you start losing the fun and the innocence of why you began loving it in the first place. And this
mhm,
resets that for you. So, like, guys, take a step, sit back for a second, and watch this, and watch how
mhm.
absurd it is. So I was thrown off seeing my favorite hero and movie character of all time as a bad guy, but then I'm like, wait, he's a Lego, and this is silly, and this is a lot of fun.
It's not real.
Yeah,
It's not real.
yeah, it's not real. Yeah, but so that was fine with me. But and did you have another question too on top of that, or was that the one?
That was the question.
Because I had a question for you, and it was going to be about Dark Ray. Because I don't know if people know this, but in London on our last night, we went to this huge party. We saw a concert. The band Ash played. We had a blast with all of our fellow peers and friends and fellow fans. And Lacey dressed up as Dark Ray,
I
and
did.
I know that's a very popular thing. So what were your thoughts on seeing Dark Ray beyond that brief moment in The Rise of Skywalker, seeing Dark Ray in this setting here, even though it wasn't Daisy Ridley obviously doing the voice?
I don't like that it's not Daisy.
I know you
I
said
can
that.
tell it's not Daisy. The Christmas special, when it was whoever it was, it just doesn't sound like her. It sounds like someone trying to be her.
Mhm.
Whereas the Han Solo I felt was kinda effortless. The guy that's doing Han Solo sounded very much like Han Solo,
Mhm.
even though it's not clearly Harrison Ford. The Rey is just not Rey. It's, like, too deep. It, like, makes her, like, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. So it's very, off-putting when I hear her speak. I'm like, "I hate this person that does Rey. I don't like this." Um That being said, I thought the idea of her being Dark Rey was cool, although I don't really agree with her answering to Dev. Like, that to me was very weird. Like,
Mhm.
why wouldn't he be answering to her?
Right.
I
Right.
felt like it put her kind of in a slot of, like, you're putting her at the same level as a evil Rose Tico and an evil Nubs and an like, all these other kind of fan favorite characters that aren't at the same level of importance as Rey. It just was weird to me. That was a little, um it was a choice, I'll say that. The other thing that I found very interesting is that she had a double-sided lightsaber,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Weird," because that was a fan favorite thing that they didn't do in The Rise of Skywalker, which I think was one of the biggest mistakes that they didn't do outside of not having her lightsaber in that movie,
Well,
was
Dark
not
Ray
do.
had it.
Right, but I'm saying I wish she had it in the
Mm,
actual movie.
gotcha. Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, they were obviously pulling that from The Rise of Skywalker, so it was nice to see her still have the double saber, but, it was fine. It was
Yeah.
it wasn't my favorite, but it was, like, one of those things I was like, "I get why they added her here. It
I
makes
thought it
sense."
was Kira at first when I first saw her coming off the ship.
Mm,
Then I was like, "Oh, no, that's Dark Ray. Holy cow."
mhm,
But the cast, so I'm just run through the main cast list, starting with the OGs, because we talked about Mark Hamill, but
mhm.
also the big reveal at the end, the Landalorian with Billy D. Williams coming back as Lando Calrissian.
Which he's
Uh,
done the other Lego movies too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Landalorian I thought was very funny. I think someone has made that joke before, but Anthony Daniels, of course, as C-3PO. Who else would be
Mhm.
there? Ahmed Best, you talked about as Darth Jar
Who's
Jar.
evil. He gave
Yep,
him the percentage of to live, and he's like, "How is he doing this? Why would he do this? It's so evil."
that was good. And then some veterans of recent Star Wars. You had Naomi Ackie was
Yes.
back.
She was wonderful. Oh,
Uh,
loved her.
Kelly Marie Tran back.
Yeah, yeah.
Dark Rose. And then Bobby Moynihan, obviously, he's done voice work for Star Wars, and he's, as we talked about, Jedi Bob. Which Bob, I guess, is a big thing now because Bob, the character in Beetlejuice, and now we have Jedi Bob. We had Bob in Stranger Things. Like, it's the time of Bob, I think.
Finally, a normal name. Lego said, "Get your Jebs and, other random names." What was the name of, Joran, whatever that name was for
Oh,
Jude
Jude
Law's
Law?
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, his characters. Din Djarin, they're like, "No, his name's just Bob. He's just
Yeah.
Bob."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed that. I am so happy they had all these people come back. I wish they had more come back. I
I
wish they
know.
had Daisy come back. I wish they had John Boyega come back, and whoever. Um, I think it would mean more, and I think they would have a good time too.
Mhm.
I think they'd really enjoy it. That's why these same people like Anthony Daniels keeps coming back, Kelly Marie Tran keeps coming back, which by the way, that like kind of fan favorite dark reveal was really hilarious with they all come off the Millennium Falcon and it's like Jar Jar and then Nubs and then Rose and then so it was very funny that I was like, "Oh, these are all like kind of the side fan favorites." And then he's like, "And then there's Darth Hammerhead, I'm sorry, I don't remember what your name is."
Yes. Yes.
And the guy's like,
Yeah,
it's
he
so
goes, "Oh." Oh.
so
But,
like,
yeah, it
those
was
are the jokes that nobody would get, but a Star Wars fan would get.
yeah, it was like, and also those characters, you're like, these are the characters you wouldn't imagine ever being bad. So
Which is what makes it funny. He
y
throws Nubs
Nubs right in
across
there, angry looking Nubs
no, but
who's
they
like,
throw him across, like, into a
"Oh,
rock or something, and the thing's like,
yes.
"Arr."
Yes. Yeah."
Aw.
And you're right, there is this it also, like, it allowed Star Wars to poke fun at itself because it
Yeah.
did, like, some of the inside jokes, like, definitely pointed out, like, criticisms that fans have had over the years and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
they've done the whole, like, Han and Greedo who shoots verse stuff, and they make fun of that, and it's always good to see the studio, being able to have a sense of humor about stuff, and this is a good spot for them to be like, yeah, we acknowledge, how ridiculous this thing was, so we're gonna make it a scene in Lego, and we're gonna have fun with it. And I think that's really cool. And I think this, like, my prevailing thought with this, aside from I do want my kids to watch it, definitely Johnny after he finds out the reveal. Daisy's still too young to that'll gloss over her. She will have so much fun watching the visual element of this, as I'm sure
Mhm.
your Daisy will as well.
Yeah.
But I think the overarching thought I have about this is that it just takes the stuffiness out, like I said before, and it reminds you that Star Wars at its core is for all ages. It's supposed to be for everyone, and it's supposed to be fun and fantastical. Like the regular story of Star Wars is supposed to be that, and this is that just on steroids. They're just like, we're throwing it all out there. We're putting it in a
Mhm.
blender,
Greatest hits. Yeah.
and whatever comes out is what comes out, and that's where you get the White Knight Jedi Darth Vader and all this cool stuff. So I really had a lot of fun with it, and I was actually surprised, Lacey, that it did have this sort of stinger at the end, like a cliffhanger. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, this wasn't just a we're doing this just to do it for content on Disney Plus. They may continue this with this Landalorian element in future ones, and I hope that's the
Mhm.
case because I had a really fun time watching this. It's easy and stress free and away from any of the potential dramas that come into how people digest Star Wars these days. We're just off the heels of the Acolyte and how split people were on that. This just if they present it to you, it's so a fun, light hearted, and a good time.
Yeah, because they're changing everything and switching everything around, you can't have anybody that has opinions about this character or they didn't do this right because none of it matters because it's all wrong. Which to me, these 4 episodes felt like a love letter from Star Wars fans. Like you knew that these guys writing it love Star Wars. From the little jokes to the way that the characters were presented to the different switches that they did make where they had like a sand crawler on at legs and like Ewoks were bounty hunters. Like
Yes.
just it came across very much to me like when you're little and talking about Star Wars and talking, we didn't have all these movies and shows and stuff. It was very like, hey, the original trilogy and that's it. And you're coming up with your own tales and own ideas. And you're like, what if this happened?
Hmm.
Or like you had a certain play set that you played with or an idea about a character because it wasn't answered. That's how I felt watching this. It was very much a fun experience of going in with no expectations, and even if you do have like some expectations of what you're going to see, it's gonna be wrong
Hmm.
because everything has been switched around, broken apart, put back together,
Right.
but there is this kind of, um, wonderful tale about siblings per usual and family and, getting along with each other, and even when you misunderstand each other, like, getting back to, uh the idea that no matter what, you're going to love each other, no matter what the challenges are at the end of the day, or you'll always find your way back, which I really enjoy. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just love I had a smile on my face from the first 2 seconds of this. Like you said,
Me too.
I was laughing at the Luke stuff. I really enjoyed it. It meant a lot to me that it was Mark Hamill more than anything else because I'm such a fan of his and Luke Skywalker was my childhood hero, and I've been very open that I didn't like The Last Jedi and how they treated Luke. So this to me felt kind of a little bit of vindication slash hilariousness of Mark Hamill getting to play Luke and make these kind of little jabs at it. It like made me laugh. I was like, this after what he went through with the director and the Jedi and what you saw behind the scenes, it did feel nice that he got to have like little kind of
A little
wink
catharsis. Yeah.
wink nudge like nudges at the character and how he felt about it. But you could tell it was from a place of love, just like everything else that was said and done in the series was making fun of it, but because they love it, not
Right.
because it's stupid or they don't like it or this doesn't make sense. Um, yeah, I hope they make more of this. It was my favorite Lego thing they've done so far.
And it has it like to your point about the character Sig, and it does have a core to it and heart to it.
Mhm,
Like he's sort of the nucleus of the story, and
mhm,
obviously his brother too, but it gives kids that person to see the show through. He's the narrator, he's the main POV, he's the straight person out of in all this chaos in a sense. you need that character that's like the straight to all the craziness. And he's that. And the fact that it's Gaten Matarazzo, who I actually saw. I know you're gonna like.
You did see him once
I
at
saw
Last
him
Jedi
at the
premiere.
Last Jedi
You opened
premiere.
the door for him.
I held the door for him and his mom. Yeah, and that was just after Stranger Things came out. No one really knew who he was. He was still like this little dude. And so he was clearly a Star Wars fan for a long time. So I'm sure he was like tickle pink to be and so thrilled to be a part of this. So I thought that was cool too. So overall, just a good feeling type of thing. Easy watch, 4 episodes, 20 minutes. Again, if the reveal's already gone for your kids or you don't mind, your kids are gonna love it. It's right there on Disney Plus to watch at any time, and it's one of those rewatchable things. Also, Lacey, like I think
You'll see new stuff every time because I rewatched it and I caught up on lines,
Easter eggs,
stuff in the background,
yeah,
like things that I just didn't pick up the first time. But I got to tell you, as soon as Sheevy Babes said, "I'm back, baby," I texted John and was like, "You gotta be kidding me." And I just got ha 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 in all caps from John. Like he had cackle over there. Because I just couldn't believe it was happening, but it was a real joy to watch. It's the most I've smiled watching Star Wars lately, new Star Wars at least. It was super fun, and this is what I like about Star Wars, and I will stick by that. Like some people like Andor, some people like Acolyte, and that's fine. Like if you like the serious stuff or the darker stuff, that's cool. I like the stuff like this that doesn't take itself seriously, that takes you to new planets, introduces you to new characters, has a great adventure with some type of character that's finding themselves. Like that's what I like. And so I'm so pumped for Skeleton Crew, and I think this is a perfect way to lead into that. Yeah, I hope they make more. I really do. And John joked that he didn't know if he'd be able to talk 20 minutes about this, and we're at 27. So
yeah, I'm a talker, I guess. What can I say?
No, it's because you liked it.
I did like it.
It was great. It was wonderful. So what is your favorite part before we
I mean, I laughed the hardest at Mark Hamill saying like, "Yeah, I'm grumpy now. Get him, Ray." Like that was so funny to
He's
me.
just on the back. Her back.
Yeah. And then Luke sort of being this like weird swindling hippie racer guy.
He was a hippie. He was like a weird surfer.
He was dressed like a hippie, no doubt about it. He looked like he was dressed like John Dykstra, who was when they were creating Star Wars. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like one of the it looked like one of the members from ILM when they were making the original Star Wars. Just like chest hair out, bell bottoms, a denim vest, just like it was just so cool. I love seeing that spin on Luke Skywalker. Because usually it's something tied to, even if it's not canon, it's affiliated to the character of Luke Skywalker. This is just like a just completely retelling of who this guy's personality is. He's cheating in races and all this stuff. And it's also cool that he's doing pod racing in the same way that his dad did pod racing. So it's almost like if Luke was around in this time, he would have also been a pod racer like Anakin. It's like that type of fun stuff. So overall, yeah, good times. Check it out, enjoy it, and everyone can watch it, which is also great. So any other final thoughts, Lacey?
Yeah, I was going to tell you what my favorite moments were.
Let's go.
So I obviously loved the Luke stuff in the cantina. I already said that.
Yep.
My other favorite part that had me cackling was all the mall stuff where he's dressed as Lando.
Yes. Was that so was that Sam Witwer?
I don't know. I didn't look it up before this. I'm assuming it was just because he does everything and he says yes to everything. But I loved how Sig was like, "Don't trust him. That's a bad guy. That's Darth Maul." And he's like, "Hey," and he's like wearing the outfit. And then he ends up to actually be the good guy. Like he helped them out. He's like, I called them. I called the rebellion." And then the other part that made me kind of do a little chuckle was when they get confronted by like all the evil fan favorite characters, and Rose was like, "He's a nerf herder," and Sig just goes, "It's a noble profession."
And they showed nerfs. Was that the first time we saw nerfs?
I think it was, but like it was just the way he said, "It is a noble profession."
Yeah,
it's so quick. It was so good. Those are the moments that make Lego Star Wars stand out to me, from the games to the the books, the comics, whatever they do with Lego Star Wars, the shows and the movies, it's those little beats, those comedic beats where they're like having a very tense moment. They're like, it is a noble profession. And then it
Right.
cuts back. Like, that is my humor 100%. So like anytime there were lines like that, I was like, this was made for me. These jokes and all this stupid stuff that like, that's the things I think in my head when I'm watching these movies. And it's nice to see it translate on screen. I
Yeah.
feel
Agreed.
seen with this, guys. I felt seen with the
Oh,
Lego series.
jeez Louise. Well,
Um,
uh, needless to say, it's
yes,
a fun, light, good time. So
it
check
is.
it out. We had a lot of fun watching it. Look forward to maybe seeing the Landalorian in episode 5 if they make more.
Mhm.
And it's just cool. Like Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams. Think about that. Doing Lego Star Wars. Amazing. And he probably doesn't have to leave home, which is cool.
Mm-mm.
He's like, they put a microphone in front of him and they're like, be Lando. He's like, got it. Uh, but thank you very much for checking out this video or listening on the podcast feeds. Make sure you do subscribe to TRB on Apple, Spotify, or of course our channel, youtube.com/@TRB podcasts. And we will see you on the Resistance broadcast, where we'll look forward to talking more Lego Star Wars as they come out in the future. But for now, as we close the book on Rebuild the Galaxy, we hope you all enjoy it as much as we did. And until next time, from us here at TRB, we'll see you around, kids.